to help inform user interface designs and to ensure that the resulting system is user-friendly and intuitive. Our modernization effort has two key components: replacing legacy information technology systems with a high-performing and integrated IT enterprise system that supports registration, recordation, access to public record, including historical records, information services, and other public services, and conducting copyright business processes review and organizational analysis to ensure continuing alignment with Office's strategic goals. We are very excited about the path ahead, and thank you for your participation.
Our first presenter is Natalie Buddha-Smith, Chief of Design at the Library of Congress's Office of the Chief Information Officer.
Thank you. Part of the copyright modernization effort includes a focus on user-centered design, designing services for the needs and wants of actual users of the system. User-centered design and copyright modernization includes three principles: user experience design, accessibility, and usability. I'll walk through these three principles, and then afterwards, TJ Willis will show actual ways that these principles are being applied to current concepts for registration. On this slide that you're looking at, user experience design refers to a person's understanding, emotions, and attitudes when using a particular website, online product, or system. It includes the practical, experiential, effective, meaningful, and valuable aspects of human-computer interactions. Within copyright modernization, in the Agile project teams, there are user experience designers that represent the needs and wants of actual users, working with stakeholders, product owners, developers, and testers to influence decisions that meet those needs and those wants by actual users. User experience designers interact with these users through user research and usability testing, and communicate their needs through journey maps, wireframes, visual designs, design systems, front-end code, and more. On the next slide, we'll take a look at some examples of some of the user experience design work products. Here you're seeing system diagrams to communicate how the user flows through a service, wireframes that specify features and functions on screens, visual designs to create hierarchies and assist with ease of use, and a screenshot from a very popular design system, the US Web design system, to represent design systems that we're creating for copyright modernization that communicate the patterns in all the systems and specifications to ensure that there's consistency across not only the application, but all online services in copyright modernization. On the next slide, I'll talk about the second design principle of accessibility. Accessibility is the design of products, devices, services, or environments for people with disabilities. Accessible design and development ensures both direct access, which is unassisted, and indirect access, meaning compatibility with a person's assistive technologies. In the copyright modernization efforts, we apply accessibility best practices throughout the software development lifecycle to address Section 508 and WCAG requirements and standards. Accessibility is not the same as usability, which aims for effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in an online service. On the next slide, I'll talk about the last principle of usability testing. That's a part of making and ensuring usability of the systems. We conduct user research and copyright modernization through outreach, surveys, and interviews with a range of users from novice to experts. Usability testing is a formal testing process with actual users that is used in Agile development projects to understand if the online services are meeting the actual user's objectives, is complete, is easy to use, and understandable. After an iterative release, usability testing is conducted using user-centered scenarios with actual users of the system. This means validating assumptions, measuring ease of use, and identifying issues with the released product. Any issues that are identified are entered into a product backlog so that it can be prioritized by an Agile team. The value of usability testing is that it's conducted with users that need to use a system and want to use it without obstacles, but that actual tester is removed from the day-to-day decisions of the project team. Well, that's my introduction to the 3 principles of user-centered design that we're using in copyright modernization. I'll turn it back. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Thomas Willis, Project Manager in the Copyright Office's registration program.
Thank you. So what Natalie has shown us so far with this concept of user-centered design has really been a core principle that we've been using since the start of our effort to reimagine this new registration application system. And this is a crucial difference between how we're approaching development this time and how we approached it when we first switched from a completely paper-based system to an electronic one in 2008. There were attempts back then to include users in the testing phases, but that was really towards the end of the process, and at that point it was really difficult to make wholesale changes. So contrast that with how we're approaching this now, where we started this process in October of 2017, with a large-scale outreach effort where we asked the users what they needed and wanted to see in a new system. And this was before a single line of code was written. So the image you're seeing right now shows a wall where we've posted thousands of pieces of that feedback. We've organized the responses by theme, and these were instrumental in coming up with the initial concept screens you're about to see. And during that process, we hosted in-person interviews in several different cities, gathered comments from the public, and analyzed thousands of survey results gathered from the current ecosystem. We also considered informal feedback gathered over the years from various sources, from staff, applicants, industry, outside observers. I was actually formerly an examiner for many years, and through that experience, I know I would regularly receive feedback from applicants on frustrations they have with the current system and what they want to see in a new one. So this is also an important feedback mechanism, which is through our staff who work in the same systems as our applicants and share many of those same frustrations with it. So while I say the outreach effort formally started towards the end of 2017, the reality is that we've been gathering this feedback for many years, and all this information is helping to shape how the new registration application system is going to work. So for those that have used ECO before, here's a screenshot of one of the registration application pages for a standard literary work. Now, there are currently 31 application forms that are in use or soon will be within the U.S. Copyright Office, and we'll need to address all of them in a new system. And whatever we build must be able to adapt quickly to changing office needs, regulations, and feedback from users. The basic structure behind ECO mimics the paper applications, where the different spaces in the application were fit into this electronic system, really without much consideration given to whether or not that's the best way for users to interact. A major focus in reimagining a new system is to figure out the best path for users to enter required information, so we're not necessarily limiting ourselves to keeping the same format just because that's the way we've always done it. So here's the login page for our current system. Its purpose is to serve as a welcome screen and to show important news such as planned system outages and important changes or updates. And users have told us that when they're confronted with this wall of text in this tight layout, it's cumbersome to read, and many just log in without looking at it at all. So this brings us to some major themes that we've been hearing from users about what they want in a reimagined system. They want a comfortable interface that doesn't overwhelm them. They want to navigate easily between screens and throughout the system. If they need help, they want to easily access targeted information based on where they are in the process. They want system validations in order to ensure accuracy of certain fields and to limit potential Copyright Office correspondence. And if there is correspondence that's required between the applicant and the office, this needs to be done in an efficient manner. So contrast this with a reimagined login screen. So here we see a conceptual design that gives the user a completely different initial experience. You can see this is far less intimidating than the current login screen, and the user isn't overwhelmed with too much information. You're told up front what to expect before you even log in. And the left side of the banner could contain information targeted to different types of users. So for this example, it's a new user. They want to submit a registration application probably for the first time. But you can imagine that if this were a power user or someone that wants to use another Copyright Office service, such as recordation of a document, we could give them information that's important to them based off preferences they choose within their account settings. Now, before I go too far into my portion of the presentation, I need to tell you a bit more about what you're seeing here. These aren't screenshots of an actual product. They're essentially high-resolution wireframes that we're using to test different concepts and features. And we tested these initial designs by videotaping sessions with users, and they were asked to go through different scenarios using a clickable presentation. And we asked them to talk through what they were thinking. And we could actually see their mouse movements. We saw how they interacted and where there were pain points. And it showed us what worked and what didn't. And we've been iterating on designs based on these sessions. We haven't started on actual development of the registration products yet, but when we do towards the end of this fiscal year, there's going to be a lot of design changes as we react to the latest feedback, prioritize feature sets, and build new products with the partners at the library. So this is all to say that there may be significant changes to what you're seeing today versus what actually goes live, and we've got a lot of work to do between these concepts and a working product. So moving forward with our design concepts, if you forget your password on the login page, you're brought to a couple of self-service screens that will allow the user to reset their password. And here I'd also like to point out how clean the overall interface looks. So users have reacted very positively towards this type of design and have stated that it's very comfortable to use. And here's the next step in that password reset process. And here we're illustrating a feature that users have consistently asked for, which is self-service options in general. So right now in our current system, it's really rudimentary in terms of their self-service capabilities. So in order to reset a password, in order to do certain things, it's a very manual process. Oftentimes you have to call or you have to send an email. So we're trying to come up with features that are more self-service so these can be done independent of human intervention. Here we're seeing a concept that we'd like to explore that involves notifications. Currently, we rely on direct email to give users information, and this isn't the most reliable way to communicate because email can be ignored, or in some cases it can be routed to spam folders. So we're envisioning a message center where users will receive notification via any vehicle they choose. That could be like an email, a text, a recorded phone call, any combination of those. And then once notified, if the user needs to respond, like in the case of a problem with their application, the user would log into the system at their leisure and handle it from there. So taking that concept a step further, users want to choose what kind of notifications they receive. So these could be related to the application that a user is submitting. It could be a status update on that application. It might be a notification of a regulatory change that affects a particular type of creator or industry. So there could be all kinds of useful information that could be included here, and we're still kind of trying to figure out what might be good things to offer here. Organizations have asked for ability to manage their accounts and employees. They have different needs as opposed to individual users. And these entities have asked for the ability to do things such as transfer work from one employee to another, review applications that have been completed by employees before they're submitted to the Copyright Office, manage accounting and payment across multiple employees, set permissions for what employees can do. So at this point, we're also still looking at what kind of capabilities we'll be able to offer. And remember, this is still early in the stages of design, so we're still gathering feedback on what we're going to be doing here. So on this screen, we are assuming a new user has set up their account but hasn't submitted any applications, and they're completely new to the system. So in this case, many users would like some help in orienting themselves to different features within the system. They don't want to feel like they're just being dropped in the middle of this overwhelming environment. They need to understand the basics of that environment that's surrounding them so they know what to do next. This could be toggled on or off, or could be skipped altogether, depending on user preference. But if they do choose to take a tour, they're going to get helpful information as to what's going on the screen in front of them. So here the user is being shown a concept where there's a pending review category where the office has received all the required elements for the application and it's awaiting examination. So there's a lot to explore on this screen, and again, initial versions of the system may not look exactly like this, but it shows a lot of the features that users are asking for. And here we're assuming that the user has submitted multiple applications which are in various states. Now, they need to manage these applications, so they want a dashboard that helps them see their cases at a glance. They want to have as much information about their case as possible without it being overwhelming. So this is one way we're exploring doing that, where each of the cases shown has vital information such as date submitted by user, what you need to do to complete your application, and how much time you have to do it before the case is automatically closed due to inactivity, status or disposition of the case, if correspondence or other action is required, an action button that directs them efficiently to that area. And they want to see information about the copy they've submitted for examination. So in the case of the Kennedy curse, you see that there's an attachment section with a link that allows the user to see those files without having to actually drill down into the case. Looking at the top of the screen, under the title banner, you see a row of tabs that group cases by status. So if there's a draft of an application that the user has not submitted yet, these could be grouped all together. Same with those that have been submitted and are awaiting examination by Copyright Office staff. There could be any number of ways to slice and dice by case information. Under that field sorter, you'll notice the coral colored banner at the top stating that 2 applications require your attention. This is a way to notify the user of items in their dashboard that they need to address before the examination process can continue. And to the left of those tabs, there's an option to start a new application, and you also have access to templates, and there might be an option to show you the history of everything you've ever submitted. There are also opportunities to include links to help resources and other copyright office resources. Here, we're illustrating another concept that users have consistently asked for. This is the ability to save information and access it within the application, eliminating duplication of effort within an application or across multiple ones. In this case, there's an author who's entered information that's been saved previously, and the user is just simply choosing from a drop-down menu. For examination copies that can be submitted digitally, users want to simply drag and drop, and they want to feel confident that they've successfully uploaded their correct work. They've asked for progress indicators and confirmation of the file names that they're sending, so this view shows how we can incorporate all of this into one easy-to-read screen. Taking it one step further, there are certain files that contain metadata that might be able to pre-populate the title fields, so this could potentially cut down on the need to enter titles in manually. Here we've taken the titles from the drag and drop screen that you saw previously and pre-populated the titles, which of course would be editable if the user chooses to change them. Now, users have asked for more help in navigating the system and understanding what's being asked of them. So instead of confronting the user with walls of text like you see in the current system, we want to provide multiple layers of help when needed. Here we see some hover text built into a small informational icon that's available in each section. This would give the user a small amount of information that might answer their question. If not, you can see there's a large icon in the top right corner with a question mark and help title. When you click on that, the next level of help appears. This would bring up help topics that are related to the field that you're currently working on. The idea here is that we want to provide encouragement to the users to explore these different help topics without dumping a lot of information on them at once. And this next screen just shows an expanded view of what that help might look like. And of course, if the user wants to have access to the regulations or compendium as an official resource, you could navigate to that from here as well. So here's an interesting way that we're exploring for handling correspondence. In many cases, the office will still need to send long-form letters or messages where the examiner has to explain and the user has to respond to an issue within their case. Part of the challenge of this is simply explaining where exactly in the application there's a problem. So for certain types of relatively easy correspondence, it might be better just to have the examiner comment directly next to the field in question, and the user could also reply right there. In this concept, you can see at the top where there's a navigation bar with check marks indicating that those fields have been examined without questions. But 3, the work details, and 2 others have areas where we need the user to respond, and you see little check marks there, or I'm sorry, little flags there that say that you need to do something with this. And finally, users have consistently asked for the ability to have a summary of all the information they've entered into the application and an easy way to navigate back to individual sections to make corrections. So here we're illustrating that concept of a review screen where you could preview the certificate before submission. So at this point, I'm running out of time for my portion of the webinar, but I'd just like to close by saying that it's really an exciting time here at the Copyright Office as we look to modernize these systems. We're going to be involved in a continuous feedback loop, and at various times we're going to be reaching out to users to help us with that process. So stay tuned for those announcements, and please help us develop a system that works for you. Thank you.
Our final presenter is Tapan Das, Analysis Section Head at the Copyright Modernization Office.
Okay, thank you, Ananda. Hello, everybody. You have learned from our previous speakers regarding the user experience, conceptual design, and usability testing for the US Copyright Office modernization efforts. Now I will explain the internal acceptance testing performed during the system development. Will you buy a house without doing an inspection of the house? Will you buy a car without a test drive? Of course not. In fact, you will do several inspections before you buy. Internal acceptance testing is a critical tool to confirm that the system is developed as per the user requirements and meets their expectations. Here are the topics that I will discuss. Before going into the details of internal acceptance testing, I will explain about general system testing And then I will discuss on what, when, how, who, and about the internal acceptance testing. System testing is a process of validating and verifying that the newly developed system meets the business and technical requirements. Business requirements are the critical activities of an enterprise that must be performed to meet the organizational objectives. Technical requirements pertains to the technical aspects that a system must fulfill, such as performance-related issues, reliability issues, availability, and security. The second one is works as expected by the users. For example, copyright community, actual users like you, ensuring that the system is functioning as per the business requirements. On the right, you see a typical testing lifecycle, which is divided into 5 phases. In the first phase, test plan is developed. A test plan is a document describing software testing scope, activities, resources, and schedule. It is the basis for formally testing any software product in a project. The second phase is test design, and during this phase, it describes how the testing should be done. The third phase in the test execution, it is the process of executing the code and comparing the expected and actual results. As part of the exit criteria from the test execution, we ensure that the defects are logged in the defect tracking system and defects are analyzed for further resolution. In the test reporting phase, test metrics are generated based on the test results and distributed to the project team. Here are some of the major reasons for testing any system or software application. It is important to ensure that the application does not fail while running. It can be very expensive to fix a system after it has gone live. If a defective system goes live, it impacts the planned goal and any dependent activities. It is necessary that the high quality system is delivered to the end users for improved user satisfaction while using the system. There are 2 different types of testing, functional and non-functional. Functional testing is a type of testing which verifies that each function of a software application operates in conformance with the requirement specification. Non-functional testing is a type of testing to check non-functional aspects like performance, usability, reliability of a system, of a software application. Functional testing are usually done through various types of testing, which are like unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and lastly, the acceptance testing. Unit testing is a level of software testing where individual units or components of a software are tested. In the integration testing, it is a level of software testing where individual units are combined and tested as a group. System testing is a level of software testing where a complete and integrated software is tested. And the acceptance testing is a formal testing with respect to user needs and requirements. It is conducted to determine whether or not a system satisfies the acceptance criteria and enables the user to determine whether or not to accept the system. There are several different types of non-functional testing. For example, performance testing, security, usability, and compatibility. Performance testing is in general a testing practice performed to determine how a system performs in terms of responsiveness and stability under a particular workload. Usability testing is a way to see how easy to use the system. And security testing is a type of software testing that intends to uncover vulnerabilities of the system and determine that its data and resources are protected from possible intruders. Compatibility testing is a type of software testing to check whether a new system is capable of running on different hardware, operating systems, applications, network environments, or mobile devices. As I explained in the previous slide, acceptance testing is a formal testing regarding the user needs and requirements. In the acceptance testing, actual users run their day-to-day operations to make sure that there are no defects or errors. At the end of acceptance testing, it is determined if the users will accept the system or need further fix to resolve any outstanding issues. System design, development, and testing of the system against detailed requirements must be completed satisfactorily before the user acceptance testing can start. Acceptance testing is performed once the development of the feature or function is fully developed and tested by the internal testing team satisfactorily. Acceptance testing is not the place to catch most of the defects. Acceptance testing is the last phase before the delivered functionality goes live. Here are two different different approaches depending on the type of software development. In the waterfall approach, as the system is developed, different types of testing is done in sequence. As you can see, acceptance testing is done at the end of entire system development. The development team needs to wait until the end to get any feedback from the business users. Whereas in the agile development method, software is developed in small increments. It consists of one or more iterations. At the end of each iteration, a set of functional features are developed and released. Acceptance testing is performed after each iteration. And since acceptance testing is done much early in the development cycle, developers get early feedback on any functional or system issues. There are a number of activities involved in the acceptance testing. At the US Copyright Office, we follow a 10-step process to conduct the acceptance testing. First, we identify the testing team consisting of the product owners, testing coordinators, business acceptance testers, including subject matter experts, and the Office of Chief Information Officer development and testing teams. The next is plan acceptance testing schedule. In this, we develop the testing timeline for key activities and share it with the acceptance testing team. Next, determine the user stories that will go into the testing. A user story describes a business function or feature from an end user perspective. It describes the type of user, what they want, and why. Next is we ensure that the test cases are developed based on the user stories that are part of the acceptance testing. A test case defines a set of steps to test the delivered functionality along with test data inputs and expected outputs. Next, we review the test cases and incorporate any feedback. Following that, we prepare test data. Next, we ensure the test environment is ready, including loading of the test data. The new code is deployed, and smoke testing is done on the new features that were deployed. In the established tracking method, the defect logging and test execution process are established. Next, we do the kickoff meeting to start the acceptance testing execution. During the checkpoint meetings, we monitor the progress of the testing. And during the defect triage meetings, we prioritize defects for possible fix of the defects that were identified during the UAT. At the end, the test coordinators will compile test results and provide recommendation for system acceptance to the product owner. Acceptance testing is a collaborative effort conducted by 4 main roles. They are test coordinators, product owners, business users and testers, and the OCIO development teams. Test coordinators from the Copyright Modernization Office coordinates acceptance testing activities across all the teams. They provide training and guidance to the business users on how to write test cases, perform test execution, and log defects. At the end of testing, they generate test metrics, provide recommendation for system acceptance to the product owner. Product owner is a member of the Scrum team with responsibility of managing and prioritizing user stories in the backlog. Product owner prioritizes any defects during the defect triage meetings for fixing during the future sprints. Product owner finally provides the system's acceptance decision based on the acceptance test results. Business users are the users in the respective are the respective users from divisions who are responsible for managing or using the system. They perform test execution and log any defects found during the testing into the defect tracking system. An OCI development team is responsible for acquiring, developing, and maintaining the technology solutions for the US Copyright Office. They provide support for setting up test environment and load test data. In the next slide, what will happen if the system is deployed without allowing business users to perform acceptance testing? Here are some of the challenges. Like business requirements may not be met. There could be high risk of system failure. There may not be any opportunity to identify new features. Users may end up with poor user experiences. A defective system will increase ongoing maintenance costs, and the day-to-day business operations could be impacted due to poorly performing applications. Now I will hand over to Ananda for the next section.
We will now begin the question and answer portion of the program. You can submit questions using the Q&A panel to the right of the WebEx screen. Our first question for Tapan. What are projects you are currently conducting user acceptance testing for?
We are currently conducting acceptance testing on the recordation modernization system, which is under development. And while we are conducting acceptance testing we are conducting after each sprint, and we plan to continue to conduct acceptance testing for any system during the development cycle and before it goes to production.
This next question is for TJ. Are these new design concepts going to change along the way?
Yes, absolutely. So I referred in my presentation probably several times to that effect, that even the ones that you're looking at right now, some of them have actually changed since we did the initial round of user testing. So I do expect that there's going to be quite a bit of change as we go through. And this concept of user testing, I've got to say that when we did this, it was a surprise to me because, again, I'm an examiner. I've done this for many years, and I thought that I kind of knew most of what the issues would be that users have with this. And I thought that we had really nailed and been successful with some of the designs that we came up with, that, hey, this is going to be a real winner. And then when they went out for testing and folks that hadn't been involved in the development process started to test it, we actually found that some of these were failures. So based on that, we've gone back to the drawing board and we're redesigning some of these really on a daily basis.
Next question is for Ricardo. Will the new system provide for APIs so the volume users and agencies can automate input and validation of copyright registration applications?
Thank you, Ananda. Yes, the new system will provide APIs. We're working with the Office of the Chief Information Officer to develop the standardized approach of that technology and how to move forward. The answer is yes.
Next question is also for Ricardo. The questioner asks, can I volunteer to be a user tester?
I believe with the recordation modernization project, we're going to be sending requests for people to actually test certain of the functions as they become available. I will make sure that if you leave us your email and your contact information, I will provide that to our product owners to make sure they can reach out to you if interested.
Another question for Ricardo. Is there a tentative timeline for the project?
So currently, the recordation modernization will be the pilot, the proof of concept will be released in 2020. And then there will be, after obtaining feedback from staff and the testers, there will be a release for first release in 2021. As TJ stated, registration hasn't started. We're getting ready to start in this year, but we will be providing soon a roadmap where it actually will state the actual events that are going to be occurring in terms of the modernization. So stay tuned for that.
Next question is for Karen. Did you learn any best practices from the USPTO team working on TEAS?
Thank you, Ananda. That's a great question. We are trying to learn from basically every system out there in terms of things that we should do and not do. So as TJ mentioned earlier, we're actually learning from our rollout in the initial system that we had in ECHO in terms of things that we want to improve on. And we also are looking to our sister agency, USPTO, who has also done modernization efforts to ensure that if there are things that we can take from them, either positive things or things that are kind of lessons learned, that we would be able to incorporate that in our development as well. So we've already been out to PTO more than once to discuss things with their IT teams, and I expect that that will continue as we move further into the development phase.
Next question, do we have Natalie? Next question is for Natalie. Does the library have trained user experience professionals on staff to assist with the monitoring, management, and incorporation of actual user experience feedback?
Thanks. Yes, we do. We have a team of 9 that are very seasoned user experience design professionals. Most of us have been in the DC area working for private and government agencies for at least an average about 20 years. So we do have very seasoned user experience designers on staff, and we also supplement with contract staff. And I myself have been in the industry, and I've been a user experience designer for, I'm embarrassed to say, about 30 years now. So we keep up with industry best practices. We keep up with industry tools. So that is something that is of importance to the library. And if you've seen the recent library strategic plan, being user-centered is a quality that all of us are achieving and trying to achieve in everything we do. And so we take user experience design seriously. It's also fun, but we do make it an important part of everything we do at the library, including design and development of IT and digital products.
The next question is for Karen. Will modernization efforts extend to the copyright registration records catalog search? If so, will deposit or work images be available through the catalog search?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think that's one of the lessons learned, actually. When we did our initial ECHO system, we really did just focus exclusively on registration, so taking that paper-based registration system and making it an electronic registration system. What we are trying to do now is really look holistically at all of the office services. So we'd like to call the system development the enterprise copyright system, really reflect the fact that we want to incorporate recordation, which we, as you heard today, are also doing, as well as registration and public catalog. So we expect that we will have multiple work streams working on registration, recordation, public catalog, all at the same time, and we will make sure that we incorporate various work streams that will allow us to coordinate. So if there is one thing that will help for recordation, we'll also be able to apply that new development aspect to registration or to public catalog. With respect to search of images, obviously there are a lot of issues that we would have to look at as to how we might be able to do that, but that certainly is something that we are considering. There's a lot of really good image search technology already out there, and we really do want to be able to take advantage of new technology so that our customers are able to really utilize our services in ways that they hadn't been able to do so before.
And the final question for today for Ricardo. If there's a general question about Copyright Office modernization, do you have an email contact?
Yes, the email that is askcmo@copyright.gov. We monitor that email daily, so if you have any questions, any comments, or suggestions, please send it to that email address. I believe we will show that email in the presentation, or we can provide it to you on the on here. But it's askcmo@copyright.gov.
That concludes our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and please remember to join us for our next webinar scheduled for the end of May.